Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, where it may be. Here's what we're going to cover on tonight's edition of the Clown Hour podcast. We're going to touch upon the Australia Open, the finals, the men and women. We're going to talk about that and discuss Naomi Osaka's legacy in the sport. We're going to touch upon some more NFL news with quarterbacks on the move again. Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts. Big Ben apparently is going to stay in Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to continue to some NBA. We're going to, like the Brooklyn Nets, have swept their entire West Coast road trip. Does that make them the best team in the NBA over the Utah Jazz and Los Angeles Lakers? And last but not least, we're going to close the show on some Black History Month, Black History moments in sports. Let's wrap up Black History Month with that. So until then, two more things. Get the merch, cafepress.com, and please hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. You would appreciate it as well. So until then, let's get it. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. I am Scott Burks, and welcome to the Clown Hour podcast. With my co-host, Dwayne Nash at the bottom. Check him out on the Yard /HBCU Sports with his backdrop, where he reps on all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. You can check your boy out as well on herosports.com, where you have reps for all things FCS athletics as it pertains to HBCUs. As for me, check my blog out at theclowntimes.net. That's clown spelled with K. And also check me out on Facebook, where you're on your smartphone, desktop, laptop. Just type in the search window. You'll find my ass there as well. And one more thing before we introduce our esteemed guest tonight, please subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. And one last thing, get the merch.
Get the merch.
Cafepress.com. Search for the Clown Times. The Clown Times Sports, rather. It'll be in the description below after this podcast. Speaking of guests, we just wrapped up the Australia Open over the weekend. So we're going to bring our favorite tennis analyst back. She's going to be more savage than ever because a certain person won. Janina Reed, please check out for Real Tennis Fans podcast on YouTube. Welcome, Jay. I should say welcome back.
Hey, I'm a little bit jealous that I don't have like a real tennis fan backdrop.
He said, here I am. Hey, I'm in my sunroom, so.
Hey, it's a whole lot better than what I have behind this backdrop.
Are you in the dungeon?
Backdrop exists.
Are you in the dungeon?
Yes, I'm in the dungeon.
Yes,
I'm
in the dungeon.
See,
all right.
See, if you watch a couple of the earlier episodes, Janina, you'll see the dungeon and what it used to look like behind me. Yeah, I had to say, you know what? I gotta make the dungeon look a little bit better than what it looked right now. So that's why
Fair enough.
Backdrop was created. Yes.
All right. Well, we're gonna get to it. Ladies first in the Australia Open. I mean, Naomi Osaka did the damn thing again. That's her fourth major title. We kind of figure as such we were prophetic when she took out Serena Williams, the winner of that semifinal, went on to win the whole damn thing. We're going to talk about Serena in a moment, but Janina, that's her fourth title. I think she's 23 years old. So she's like getting into her prime. So already four underneath her belt. She doesn't look like she's not slowing down anytime soon. The only thing that could stop her is herself, is Naomi herself. So give me your thoughts on Naomi Osaka. I mean, pulling off the 6-4, 6-3 win over Jennifer Brady. Is this the next big thing or what?
She is definitely the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's got some work to do. Her titles come on hard courts. She does not perform well on clay. She does not perform well on grass. So when she starts doing better on other surfaces, she'll be even more of a big deal. I think she'll probably get there. Clay is tricky. I don't know. It doesn't really suit her game. It's slow, but she can definitely grind it out. So, she could win it. But, I mean, it's 4. That's a big deal.
Right.
Anybody would, most women would kill for that career, but it's 4. Serena has 23 and people already want to go, oh my gosh, is Naomi going to have more than Serena? Yeah, chances of that are very unlikely. Serena's been on tour for 3 decades. 3. And she started younger. When Serena and Venus came on tour, the rules were different. So you could start playing pro and go full out on tour at a younger age. You can't do that anymore,
Right.
for many reasons, just to protect younger people's bodies in more than one way. So
I can imagine.
you know, she's got some, yeah, just like gymnastics and everything else. Tennis has its problems, but we don't talk about that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, she's great. And that, listen, I did not watch the final. Australian Open finals are tough. And unless it's somebody I really, really, really want to see, I'm not doing it. It's a 3:30 a.m. start time.
Right.
I've got to fucking love you to get up and watch that shit. So I'm like, oh no, Osaka's gonna, you know, tear Jennifer Brady up. I actually thought it was gonna maybe be a little more competitive, but it you know, that's okay. It's Brady's first final. Naomi clearly knows what to do when she gets there. I think the Serena match was far more interesting, even though it sucked.
Sure.
We can take more from that, but yeah, Naomi is portrayed as this very sweet, quiet woman who very demure, pulling from her Asian roots, and really
I was just about to say
let
that.
some stuff back. So, you know, mistake her kindness for this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We will see.
It's interesting you said that, because there's been, after she won her first title at the US Open, a lot of people would just stop at a Japanese heritage, which is nothing wrong with honoring Japanese heritage. But the thing is, she said, the question is always, how do you feel about being the first Asian? And then she would always interject and say, you mean Asian and Haitian? She'd have to interject that herself, because they would just totally skip her black side. It's anti-blackness, whether it's subconscious or whatever, it's something else.
Yeah.
Really something else. I mean, because as innocuous as that question was, you know, how you feel being the first Asian, blah, 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 to win a major, whatever the hell. And she had to interrupt her, well, Asian female, because Michael Chang did it way back in the day. But, you know,
well, she's not. Li Na won.
Well, oh, yeah, correct. I guess first, but the thing is that
she's the first Japanese woman.
Oh, the third one. Okay, I got you. Third one. Okay, third one. I mean, but the thing is why stop at? I mean, I found it interesting that, and I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, but I found it interesting that it's always the buck stops at. It doesn't acknowledge her black side at all. That's what I just want to point out. And I saw Dwayne.
Well, tennis doesn't want her to be black.
Yeah.
Tennis doesn't want Naomi to be black. They want her to be the quiet little Asian girl, but they got their surprise at the US Open last year when she showed up with someone's name on her mask at every match, ready to roll and ready to talk about it. So, you know, on my podcast, we've talked for years about how Naomi would soon be treated differently when tennis realized she's black. And she still hasn't done anything per se to make that, other than wear that mask. Sometime it's coming. She will do something or say something, and her behavior will not align with the way that they want it to, and she will then be black.
Well, it's interesting that I think it was at the Western Southern Open last year, where Jacob Blake got shot. And remember, in the NBA, they had the playoffs in the bubble. The Bucks just walked off the court and we ain't playing. And then Naomi, soon after, threatened to sit out her match. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. She threatened to sit out her match, and so they had to. The tennis as a whole had to say, okay, we're going to take a pause.
Okay.
Because that was interesting, because I think it was going to be a semifinal match. Naomi did say, I'm not playing. She said, I'm not going to play.
Right.
That was really, really messy for many reasons, because when she said she wasn't going to play, she essentially withdrew herself from the tournament. And tennis was the last sport of the day to say, we're going to put everything on hold, because it was the NBA. And then, all these other
Baseball,
sports,
yep.
finally, baseball, hockey, all
Even
these sports
NASCAR.
said, we're
NASCAR
going to.
said no.
Yeah. Tennis was one of the very last. So essentially what happened was she was actually able to play. They said, we're gonna cancel all matches for the remainder of, I think it was that evening and then the following day, and we're gonna resume play on Friday. That's all fine and well, but they let Naomi come back and play. That's bullshit. If you say you're not going to play a match, you're done. You're out.
Right.
And I was really disappointed in her for continuing on to play, because she should have. I was so excited that someone in tennis finally took a stand against racism. You don't see it in tennis. You don't. Serena does it quietly, but it's never that vocal. So it was really, really nice. I was cheering so hard for her, and I was like, yes, bitch, yes, do it. And then, and then she came back, and I was like, damn, girl, stand by your convictions. Listen, she is the highest paid female athlete in the entire world. She doesn't need the money.
I know that.
You didn't need to play any more tennis.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Good for her, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean,
good for her.
It's more deserved. It's well deserved. But yeah, I didn't know. I mean, it's interesting that people, like we said earlier, that in the other sports they use their juice, if you will, the power, the platform, to bring awareness. Good for the NBA,
Right.
especially the WNBA. I mean, we
really
can talk
do it.
about Raphael Warnock and everything else, how that played out. But at any rate,
Right.
It's good that to see someone. Even, I guess it's baby steps in tennis. Even on the threat of not playing,
We're crawling.
Yeah. I guess so. But at least someone says something. But
For sure.
But going back to Osaka right quick, as far as projecting forward, you mentioned that all of her titles have come on hard courts, fast courts. Do you think that if she doesn't, let's just say for the sake of argument, if she doesn't take home a French Open or maybe a Wimbledon, would that be a huge, I know it's early. She's only 23 years old. She's got her fourth major. She's on her way, obviously. But let's just say she doesn't take home a French Open, right? Let's say she has continued to have struggles there as Pete Sampras once did, as Federer once did before he broke through. Would that be a huge mark, if you will, on her legacy when it's all said and done, if she fails to take home a clay court title or even a Wimbledon?
No, it's not. I mean, the next grass is supposed to play fast, so theoretically Wimbledon she should do okay at, but they've slowed it down, so it's ridiculous. Thank you, your boy Rafa. The shade there are tons and tons and tons of great players who don't win on all surfaces. So really it's a bigger deal when you can do it as opposed to when you cannot. It was a big deal for Serena. It's a big deal when Federer got his, but that's more because they were already heads and shoulders above everyone to begin with. So, if they could just get this little bit more, then it was going to be that great. But I mean, it's really, really, really a big deal so we call them Grand Slams. However, a true Grand Slam means that you've won each of them. You want to be able to win all four. You've got the US Open, the Australian Open, the French Open, and Wimbledon. If you can win those, you're golden, but it's very rare. So no, it doesn't take anything away from her. Maybe she'll be a hard court specialist, kind of like Rafa is a clay court specialist.
Yeah. You know what? Man, I can't. I'm trying to be nice. We had a nice conversation, and she's gonna throw that shade with my boy. I swear, black people, you can't take it away.
Well, Janina, I have one quick question, one big tennis for dummies question, and you guys have kind of touched on it a little bit, right? And I was kind of wondering this: what will Naomi have to do in order for her to adjust her game so that she can play on both clay and grass? You already said, and that was something that I noticed during her match against Serena, but they did talk about her power and her speed. And you said that the grass kind of plays along with her speed. What will she have to do in order for her to win on those
surfaces?
Surfaces. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
No worries.
My God.
So it's all about how the ball hits the surface. So the US Open and the Australian Open are technically hard, fast courts. So when you have all that power and your ball hits the surface, it goes quicker at your opponent. So the slower the surface, it kind of neutralizes your power. So you can have that big, huge serve on clay, but when it hits the clay, so much of that energy is absorbed by the clay that actually slows down and your opponent has more time to react. So you have to be able, and Naomi is a great mover, but you have to be able to play those longer points. You have to be more creative in your points on clay. Like we see Naomi literally hit people off the court. She just powers through her shots. That ball goes back so fast. That doesn't happen on clay. And that's why so many people have such a hard time. Like Nadal can hit through the clay. A lot of people just can't do it. It's just such a neutralizing factor. So in order to do well there, you have to have an all around good game. Grass should be faster than a hard court. And it used to be, but they've changed the grass that they use at Wimbledon over the years. And like it or not, it started, listen, all the courts were slowed down. This isn't a secret, but people don't know it. When Rafael Nadal came to the scene and Federer was eating up everything, because he definitely has a game that suits a hard court.
Oh, yeah, especially Wimbledon.
He's an amazing server. People look at Federer for his serve so much because it's not always that fast, but it's super, super accurate. And sometimes that's just as important, sometimes more important. When Rafa came, and remember for a long time, Federer had his number. Well, we wanted Rafa to do well. We wanted him to succeed. And the tournament director, basically, I don't know if it's the tournament director, but the tournament itself really gets to decide how fast or slow a court is. So when we say that a court is hard and fast, it must be made of a certain surface, but there's a minute, and I don't know it. Let's say like 1 to 10, 10 being the fastest. It could be a 1 and still be considered a hard court. So what happened in hard courts and what happened in grass is they started using, in Wimbledon, they started using different kind of grass, which slowed down the ball. And on hard courts, it's all about how much, if you've ever been on a tennis court and actually touched it, a hard court, it's gritty. There's sand in there. So it's all about how much sand is in the surface as to how fast the courts, and all of that was manipulated and slowed down when we had Rafa coming up. Really, honestly, to suit his game a little bit better and make him more competitive. But that's not something that tennis really wants people to know, because Federer was just dominating. But if you think about it, so now we have Novak Djokovic dominating tennis. Right. He really has the same style game as Rafa. And so do a lot of these young players. They play from the baseline and they slug it out. And that is a direct result of a slower court. There's your tennis lesson for the day.
Thank you.
So that's actually
tennis 101, everyone.
For future tennis questions I'm going to have for other people, especially as it pertains to the collegiate level. So thank you, Janina.
There you go.
You're
That's
welcome.
why we have it on here. So because I think about, and I promise I'll get back to, because I'm thinking about all these tangent stuff, like regards to Because thinking about Pete Sampras, I mentioned him earlier, Pete Sampras, he was serving volleyer. Classic serving volleyer.
Courts were very, very, very fast during his time.
And he used to eat up Wimbledon a lot.
Well, remember when Pete was playing Wimbledon, by the time you got to a final, the baseline is bare, the middle of the court is bare, and up by the net is bare. It doesn't look like that anymore because so many people are playing from the baseline. You don't have players going into the net. And that, again, is a direct result of the grass being slower. You don't have to go in. The ball doesn't die when you hit a drop shot. It bounces. So it's, it really makes it kind of boring. It's Federer and Serena and Venus, I would say, are the only players on tour right now who have truly played on 4 different surfaces. Right now, everything is so similar. It's just stupid.
Yeah. So we mentioned her name a few times, so might as well bring it up. Serena. The way she looked leaving the court, where she took a bow, blew kiss to the crowd. She loves Australia. We we know that. When she had a press conference, it was rather emotional, and it seemed to me that she knew. And Janina's probably going to cuss me on what I says, but to me, it seemed she knew that this is coming up. She's coming up on the end. You know what I'm saying? It's like she.
So
it just seems that way to me. How, because again, she could still win. She could obviously still win. She took out Halep. I mean, she took out some great players along the way, pretty damn good players along the way. She just, to me, it's like when she faces Naomi these days, she looks across, to me, Serena looks across the net and sees a younger Serena Williams when she looks at Naomi Osaka.
Of course.
That's a younger, Naomi's a younger Serena. And she's just more powerful. She is,
and she's
Serena.
Completely modeled her game after Serena.
Yeah, and to the point where
it's no secret. She talks about it.
Yes, and she had a poster in her room when she was growing up. She was like Serena and Venus. Naomi was self-taught. Her father said, "Hey, because so it's interesting that they both had very similar yet unconventional paths to superstardom in tennis, which is, as we said last week, as you said, as we all know, it's a very country club, white sport, non-urban sport.
Mm-hmm.
And, to see that, I mean, it's just amazing how Naomi has openly, as you said, made no bones about it. Serena is her woman. That's her idol. That's her hero.
Yeah.
And she's trying to be like her in any way, shape, or form, and fashion. And good for her. So that's why
it's a good model to follow.
Yeah, and so that's why I think now it's like it's just like at this stage of her career now, Serena's career now, is that Naomi, I don't know if she could beat. Again, this is a younger Serena Williams. I don't think she could be her younger self. I mean, she's maybe have to rely on luck of the draw, maybe like in Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, because I think she should see Serena. I think she should skip the French Open. I think. I mean, why at this point, right? So if she
think Serena should?
I think I think so because, it's grueling. I mean, she's 39. She's great shape. Obviously, she's in great shape, but Father Time is undefeated and untied. She can't bounce back from
Serena
injuries.
doesn't have a...
Go ahead, sorry.
Serena doesn't have a heavy schedule. She's never had a heavy schedule. She designs her schedule to play the majors. So I don't really think that fatigue is a factor for her as far as getting worn out on tour.
Okay.
I think she can still beat Naomi. She's had with Naomi in a major because she's got so much pressure on her in a major. I almost think that's a different match if it was earlier in the tournament. It was the semifinal. It was another shot for Serena to play for that 24th elusive title. And I told you guys, watch for the nerves, right? Naomi came out extremely nervous. Serena went up a break right away, had a chance to go up 2 breaks and couldn't capitalize. Naomi calmed down and Serena never regained her composure. And it was really fortunate that they both didn't play at the same time. That match sucked, but I really think that Naomi, she's younger, she's fitter, she's fresher. She's always going to have a shot. But when Serena's on her game, nobody beats her. Nobody beats her.
Right.
We did not see the Serena Williams in that semifinal that we watched play all tournament. Didn't look anything like her. Served like shit. I told you guys, watch out for that second serve point. Hers was horrible. Horrible. Her first serve percentage was horrible. She served like 40 something percent. That's not how you win matches. Serena has the one thing that you can control. The only thing in tennis that you have 100% control over is your serve. And she couldn't even do that right. I mean, it was just bad. It was just bad. And I don't know. The last time and only other time that they played not in a major was in Canada, and Serena kicked her ass. So the moment is so big and it means so much. But I'm going to tell you what I thought when Serena left court. When I saw her stop, look back, put her hand over her chest, I said, holy shit, she's about to retire.
You know
That
what?
gave
They did
me
call that out
Roddick.
too.
Yeah. I immediately went to Andy Roddick Wimbledon when he left for his last time. It was very similar. And immediately that's what I thought of. And I was like, she's done. She's not done now, but she's done. I mean, and it only makes sense. She's 39. We know she wants to have more children. Her eggs aren't getting any younger. So she's not going to play forever. I would think that if we have an Olympics, and I'll tell you, I don't think we're going to have an Olympics, but if we do, I think there's a very good chance that she retires after that, if she makes the team or after the US Open.
So you don't think she makes it to 2022?
I don't, for what? I mean, honestly, for what? What else can she do? This woman is amazing. She has a husband. She has a child. She wants to expand her family. Time is not on her side.
Right.
She is not. I don't think that Serena is the kind of champion who is going to want to continue to go deep in a tournament and not win. She wants to win. She has said before, I don't like losing more than I enjoy winning.
Wow.
And that comes from a person who I remember her dad, like when they first came onto the scene as teenagers, as young teenagers, that well, first it was about Venus first, then Serena came. But I remember her father, Richard Williams, said in an interview that if you think the older one is special, you haven't seen the second one.
Yep. He said she's better.
And lo and behold, not that Seven's just winning only 7 majors.
Right.
It's chopped liver.
Yeah.
I mean, winning one is tough enough, let alone 7.
It's kind of like a big deal, right?
Right. I mean, Venus won 7. That's nothing to be ashamed of. But if your little sister has 23, you know.
She's special.
Yeah, both of them are.
Yeah. I think that I think they both probably retire together, and it's going to be relatively soon.
Well, and one of the things that you mentioned, you already know, I think you pretty much already know this. She's also, Venus and Serena, they're both fashion folks too. They have clothing lines that I think some of the tennis players on tour wear. They have a lot of shit in the pot, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Venus is very generous with her 11 line when players who don't have sponsorships, she's like, oh, here, wear my stuff. Them two will always try to sell you some shit. Believe it.
Oh man. So you say okay, so let's take a poll. Janina, you say that you don't think you think 2021, do you think this is the last year? Am I hearing you correctly?
You are. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I would, even if they didn't play singles, I would like for them to play doubles together, but they're old.
Yeah, well, so Venus is 41, right? Venus is 41, and Serena's 39, and they could both play.
I don't know.
I mean, Venus is older,
well,
but they both can still play. They both don't suck. It's just, it's father time.
No,
right? And
not by any means.
And
but they've got their hands in so many other things.
Right. Right. They're not one-dimensional. Not any of this thing. I agree with you, Janina. I think this is the last year in tennis. The way she walked off the court, that said it for me.
It broke my heart a little bit.
That said it for me. I think the Williams wasn't at the end of an awesome era in tennis. And I think she could go down.
Someone on my podcast said something that I really hadn't considered, that maybe she just was trying to soak in the moment because she knows that she's at the end of her career, regardless of whether or not she is thinking retirement. And Australia loves her so much, and she's always done so well there. And the crowd really was going berserk when she left. So maybe she just simply was wanting to acknowledge the crowd a little bit more, but it didn't feel to me, not in my gut.
Yeah.
For big tennis dummy, for a big tennis dummy like myself, for you to say this, Janina, for you to say it, Scott, and for me to hear the commentators say the same thing as she was walking off the court, I don't know. I'm going to have to go with the people who know more than me and agree with you guys, because you guys have seen stuff that I haven't seen in terms of her walking off the court. And yeah, I noticed it too, but I just didn't have the wherewithal or the history to understand that that exactly what it is, what it could be leading towards in terms of her retiring.
Right. Yeah, that's the most heartbreaking part. So
we'll
Dwayne,
see.
so we all three think that this is Serena's last year on tour. As far as I mean,
I don't know if this is her last year, but the way that you guys are talking and what I saw,
it's coming.
Yeah.
It's
sooner
coming towards us.
sooner now.
And the thing that concerns me the most, and this is based off of what we talked about last week and what I saw in her match last week, is the inability to mentally get over the hump now in majors. And that's becoming very concerning to me, because if you're having these blocks, especially against someone that you're potentially going to have to face in the near future for the rest of, until you retire, what are you going to do? Especially for someone who hates to lose. This is someone you're going to have to figure out how to beat in these situations. And you're having mental blocks dealing with this. It's not like it's physical issues or that you're hearing about her finding ways to outplay her, which she is, but they're saying that she's outplaying her because she's having these mental blocks. So I don't know if she's going to be able to get over it. I don't.
And plus, too,
cut it out.
No, I want to. I really do, because God knows the last thing I want to have done to me again in my lifetime is to be looked at as a woman hater, especially a Black woman hater. God knows. I love my mama. I do. And I love Black women. And I just find it concerning, though, to hear that said about any athlete, that you have these mental blocks and you can't get over it. And then you normally hear that about younger athletes. You don't hear about you don't hear that from accomplished.
But how many people face something
won.
like this?
Everyone.
How many people seriously face something like this? No. How many athletes truly are this great in face breaking the biggest record? That's what I mean.
Not many.
Yeah, right.
Not many. And see, that's the fun part too, because it depends upon what sport you're referring to and then what record you're referring to as well. Because if you look at basketball, unfortunately, the number is 6, where we all know that 6 ain't the number, but everyone holds. Matter of fact, it's not just 6, it's 6-0. And if you don't go 6-0 in the NBA, you're looked at as a failure, which I find laughable.
Right.
And then in the NFL, that number was what was it, 4?
It was
with
4.
Joe Montana
and Terry Bradshaw.
And Terry Bradshaw, that number was 4. Now that number's 7.
Yep.
And I'm scratching my head thinking to myself, dude, who's gonna do 7 now? I don't think it's gonna happen.
You know what?
I don't see anyone getting to 23 either.
I just, someone will. someone will do it someday because technology, right? Everything gets better. Like, who thought that Michael Phelps was able to swim the way that he swims? Technology has helped him. Stuff like that. People, it'll happen, but I just really don't understand why we cannot appreciate what we as sports fans are so incredibly lucky right now to see the crop of talent that's out there across the board. Why can we not just celebrate that, enjoy it, and let it be, instead of what's next? Who's bigger? Who's better?
Right.
It's that narrative is so old and exhausting.
Right.
We don't why, Janina? It's one word, 9 letters. Unfortunately, it's childhood, especially just us of our age. The things that we've seen and the athletes that we've seen then were considered great then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone doesn't match what we saw then without any flaws, because think about it, Montana never lost in the Super Bowl, Bradshaw never lost in the Super Bowl, Jordan never lost in the NBA final. You have that type of stuff going on in sports, and regardless of how many you win, if you don't do it flawlessly, you looked at us, well, from this particular generation, those who are my age, as less than, even though LeBron has been to 10, 11 NBA
bullshit.
finals, and exactly right. I'm like, dude, it's a lot harder to make it to the mountaintop and lose a great amount of time than it is to only make it a couple of times and go. Well, man, it's hard to go undefeated. But my God, I just had a conversation earlier today. Who did Michael Jordan really beat? But I digress. This conversation is not about Michael Jordan. This is about Serena Williams and the people who she's beaten. And I guarantee the people who she's beaten has also won Grand Slam titles as well. So that's why I'm like, can we just enjoy it, what we currently have? But unfortunately, for a lot of people, the answer is no.
Right. And that's the thing. But one more. we're gonna close the segment out and go to the men, but we'll say this: as far as Serena goes, I mean, it takes so much sacrifice. That's another reason why I think she's not only is the greatest female tennis player, I think she's one of the greatest athletes of all time, because of the amount of sacrifice at this age. I mean, she was winning a lot of her titles deep into her 30s. Who does that in tennis? No less. So I'm just saying, you gotta appreciate the grind. You gotta appreciate the hustle and the sacrifice that for her to put on this stage of her career, when she was racking up majors in the 30s. That takes a lot of nutrition, a lot of discipline, taking care of your body, work ethic. That's a lot of sacrifice. And I know we'll see things come in cycles that Janina alluded to earlier, but as far as the nearest future, we're gonna see this type of greatness for a while. I'm just gonna say it. We're not gonna see this type of greatness again, which is the other reason why it's unfortunate that the U.S. Tennis Association, I find it unfortunate that it never has embraced the Williams sisters. So I think that's a big tragedy in sports, and they're gonna regret the hell out of it when it's all said and done. That's all I gotta say about that. Moving on to
so let me
go ahead.
Myself real quick here. We had an amazing discussion about that on my last podcast.
Yes.
About what is it going to take, especially for Black men tennis players, to break through, and do they need Black coaches? And listen, if you all want to dig in, I'm warning you, it's long because we had a lot to say. But it was a really, really good conversation, and it's something needs to be talked about. What are we going to do to elevate our Black athletes, especially in this country? But we did talk about, Black tennis players across the globe. Why are they not successful? The men are not successful. Why?
Yeah, that's another conversation. That's a 2-hour podcast based on that alone. Just like you mentioned earlier on your podcast, it's a long ass story. I mean, I could imagine having you and a couple other people of your podcast on to talk about it And that's something for me to learn about too. That I could learn more.
You and me both.
Exactly.
You and me both.
So that's that's a you gave me a good idea for a future podcast. So stay tuned. But anyway, we'll get to the men right quick. Your favorite person in the world, Janina, Novak. He won again. Straight sets over Daniil Medvedev, 7-5, 6-2, 6-2. He made it look easy. And so what's that? Is that his 18th?
I don't fucking know.
And there you have it. Anyway, so I guess I can imagine what you think about his performance, but I'll let you say it because I want to laugh some more. So please, Janina, bless us with your thoughts on your favorite tennis player, Novak Djokovic's performance against a good shit talker in Daniil Medvedev himself.
Again, 3:30 in the morning start time, right?
Oh,
The way I typically approach the Australian Open men's final is I'm for 4:30 and I see what's going on. And 4:30 alarm goes off. I check the score and I'm like, oh, fuck. But Novak, he takes the first set, but it's 7-5. So that tells me that it was really close. But Novak takes the first set in the final. It's not looking good for the opponent. I went back to sleep. I set 3 alarms.
Mm-hmm.
The next one went off. So that was 4:30. Next one went off at 5:15. Down 2 sets. And I was like, shut that third alarm off. Went back to sleep till 10. Because no. And come to find out, Medvedev actually served for the first set, got broken, lost the set, had a break in the second, couldn't keep it, and lost the match. I picked him to win the tournament. Lots of people picked him to win the tournament.
Yeah.
After the fact, Novak says, oh, yes, I do have an abdominal tear. Bitch, no, you don't. But whatever. No. I want to see those films. I want to see the radiology report. I want to see all of it because I don't know. You're not playing tennis with torn abdominal muscles. Come on. But
so he's not even selling it
whatever.
like Mike in the flu game. He's not like slumped over, holding his gut after every break point, or come on, at least sell it, dog. Just sell it. Oh, come on.
I was so disappointed, but I'm glad I didn't lose any sleep over it because listen, that's a shitty ass men's final. I don't think I've woken up to actually watch an Australian Open men's final since 2018 when Federer somehow beat Rafa. I don't even know how that happened, but it didn't. It was great. But that was the last time I watched a men's final.
Oh my God. Oh, you're funny. And
you know what though? Watch out for Daniil Medvedev. His time will come. He's young. He is feisty. He is good. So it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Maybe next time he plays Novak in a final, Novak will have 2 torn abdominal muscles.
Speaking of Novak, I remember you said specifically, you told me this on Twitter. You were like, as far as the ratings went, you were like, see, what I tell you? The ratings went but so good because he's not a ratings puller. He's not a Rafa. He's not a Federer. It doesn't attract see, those 2 guys I just mentioned, they attract the general audience, right? Especially Federer.
Listen, Federer pulls ratings, Serena pulls ratings, Sharapova used to pull ratings and sell tickets. All 3 of them sell tickets. Everybody else is way far behind. And Rafa does okay, but Sharapova, Venus, Serena, listen, when Federer and Serena are gone from tennis, it's going to be ugly. Tennis is going to take such a huge hit in ticket sales and ratings. It's going to be bad. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Howard Bryant from ESPN.
Yes.
At all.
So.
he was a guest on our last podcast and
Yes.
kind of let it drop that ESPN is getting out of the tennis business real soon.
Mm.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I don't know what tennis is going to look like after that, because the tennis channel, I mean, there is a tennis channel. It's hard to
Right.
get.
I
You have to
forgot that there
typically
was a tennis
subscribe.
channel.
Well, you have to subscribe to the highest package tier of any cable network in order to even get it.
Right.
But it's just shit. I mean, it's shit. So it's run by St. Clair, who is in the MAGA hat.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Case closed.
And it used to be a time where they would
Yeah.
run the earlier rounds to a lot of the majors, and then I guess whatever major network will run like the semis and the quarters to semis and the finals. That's the
Yep.
way I remember it being done at one point in
Yep.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's how it used to be. And you could always watch like the finals of the US Open or Wimbledon or the French Open. Listen, you can't even watch the French Open on ESPN anymore. They got rid of it years ago. Nobody wants it. That's the shit.
So what's the French Open
nobody
on?
wants it.
Who does the French Open?
Clay. Rafa does. It's the Rafael Nadal Open.
But who broadcasts it now?
Tennis Channel, because no one wants it.
Okay. Well, go back to the Howard Bryant conversation. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
To like to read and follow. He's really deep brother from Boston. Who went to Temple. Why did he say that ESPN is looking to get out of the business, the tennis business? Like,
He didn't. He just kind of dropped that.
He just dropped it,
was
okay.
actually in.
Okay.
He was in our conversation about why Black tennis players aren't
Okay.
really excelling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he totally dropped that. We were all like,
Yeah.
because that's huge. Like,
Yeah.
That's huge, because the local TV doesn't show them. The US Open, you can still, I think, watch on your local free channels at some stages, but that's because it's in America. As far as the other stuff, you can't get it. So if ESPN isn't showing that, like, what other major sports network that everybody typically has access to is going to pick up tennis? They're
Right.
not.
And that's the thing.
Like, who would it even be?
Yeah, what? God.
Fox
So-
Sports, NBC.
No, because Fox Sports isn't necessarily that easy to find for a lot of people. They still
Right.
have
Yeah,
a hard
FS1,
time.
not.
right. FS1 is
And
not easy to find.
then NBC Sports is going out of business at the end of the year. So
Right.
that's another
Right.
option that's about to be swallowed up in a minute. So my thing is, what the tennis channel needs to do is make themselves a lot more accessible if they care about ratings and they want to show tennis. But the way that you're shaking your head over
Well-
this, it makes me think that it's not going to be the case.
But their coverage is shit as well.
Well,
It-
then that doesn't help either.
The
Yeah.
commentators aren't diverse, and it's basically a bunch of ex-players sitting around bullshitting. ESPN, I mean, I don't know. ESPN has everybody. Nobody likes to really listen to them either. Nobody wants to listen to Chrissy Everett and John McEnroe or Patrick
Especially John
McEnroe.
McEnroe.
But maybe
Especially
they'll
John
end up
McEnroe.
back at Tennis Channel, or I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be really weird, because, and I mean, just one more thing about that.
Mhm.
Typically when you have a network that offers an app, you
Mhm.
can watch what's on TV on your app. Tennis channels, you can't. Whatever's on TV is not what's showing on the app. And then they have a subscription service called Tennis Channel Plus,
Mhm.
and that shows stuff that's not on TV and that you can't get on TV. So really, you almost have to double subscribe to Tennis Channel in order to get the matches that you want.
Wow. Well,
Say goodbye to tennis.
yeah. Well, this is why I went back earlier, why I mentioned earlier why I think the USTA is going to regret not fully embracing the Williams sisters,
Mhm.
because they're your biggest stars. That would be Black women. You know?
Yeah, and when they're
They-
gone,
yeah.
listen, when they're gone and nobody wants to watch anybody play tennis because there's no name recognition, because that's half of it. You know, Serena Williams is a global name. Roger
Yes.
Federer is a global name. People
Yes.
that have never watched tennis a day in their life, they may not even know that he's a tennis player, but they know that name, right? When those names are gone for tennis, there's no one to replace them. No one knows who the fuck Novak Djokovic is. Nobody knows who he is. People
And they're
might
not
know
doing
who Nadal
anything
is.
based upon what I'm hearing to make them care about who they are.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Poor
Tennis,
marketing.
right? Tennis, as we know it right now, has been 100% built around Roger Federer, Maria Sharapova, and Serena Williams.
Mm,
And Sharapova's gone.
right. No one misses her, by the way. But-
No one misses her meldonium pill popping motherfucking doping ass. Nobody.
You know what? You know what? I don't want to spend too much time on this. We mentioned the pill popping. I wonder just how you. I just wonder if what's her name? Used to be a rival of the Williams sisters from Sweden, the Swiss chick who ended up
Martina
doping.
Hingis.
Yes.
She wasn't doping. She was doing coke. Different.
Cocaine. Yeah, she was a crackhead. Yeah. She was a crackhead. But I wonder how if you're watching, if she was playing right now and fell out like with the cocaine, if you were this brutal on Novak and Rafa and Sharapova, I could only imagine how brutal you would be on Martina Hingis.
Listen.
I'm just
Well,
curious.
first of all, I think no. Martina Hingis was using drugs recreationally. So that's a whole different ballgame. Maria Sharapova was taking extra doses of her meldonium when she had big matches. I read every single word of all the reports, all the legal documents. There's a podcast out on that. Talked to the head of the Australian Open Australian tennis anti-doping agency. We dug deep into that. Maria Sharapova is a motherfucking fraud, period. When she got busted and she couldn't dope anymore, she didn't win anymore. She didn't. She was known for her third set. Oh my God, if Maria gets to a third set, she's going to win and she's going to be great because she's got the staying power and the endurance. No, she has extra pills. And she admitted it. That's the thing. Like she said, no, I'm not just talking shit. In the official court proceedings with CAS, you know, the Worldwide Anti-Doping Court, the Court of Arbitration of Sports, she said, she tried to say it was a vitamin, but we know that the entire fucking Russian Olympic team got banned because they were Russians take meldonium. Period.
Oh my God.
Period. We know all of this now. We know that the Russians were cutting holes in the lab doors and switching out urine so that the meldonium wasn't found during the Olympics. Like, we know all of this stuff now. Dwayne, you clearly didn't know this.
Oh my
God. I could talk to you about this for hours. It's so fascinating. I mean, I know I talk a lot of shit, but I'm telling you, Maria, she has been doping for a long time. She had one Russian doctor. You want to know why they were Russian? Because the goddamn drug, it's a known enhancer. It raises your blood oxygen levels. It gives you endurance. I mean, there's just all these things. And people say, well, she wasn't doping before she was doping because it wasn't illegal yet. And you know what? You can give me that argument all day long. And you are technically correct. But if you are putting something in your body for enhancement purposes, be it legal or not, at the end of the day, she was just staying one jump ahead of it. But here's the kicker, and then I'll get off my Maria soapbox. Every year, so it's 2021, right? At the mid to end of 2020, Every athlete in the entire world that is a professional athlete gets a list of drugs that are going to possibly be on a banned list by WADA for the following year. They say, this is what we're investigating. So this might end up on the banned list next year. So if you as an athlete are taking this, you've got all this time to get it out of your system before you piss dirty. You know what Maria's excuse was when she got her email? Because it really, truly was an email. She said, I didn't click the link. And therefore, she didn't know that meldonium was going to be on the banned list.
Wow.
You didn't click the link. I didn't open the email. My God.
She didn't click. Yeah.
Wow.
She had a news conference, a press conference, when she told the world that she got a negative or a positive drug test. She said, I didn't click the link.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a hell of a way to close out this segment on the US Open. I know, right? Damn. Yeah, but look, this is a reason why we're going to get your ass on here when every major tennis tournament rolls around, right? It could be the Western Southern Open. It could be outside of the four majors, right? It could be fucking
So wait, fix your face.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Yeah, he can't.
I can't.
But the point is, we're gonna get your ass back on here no matter what, for tennis or anything for that matter, because
I'm here.
I'm being educated.
Here for you.
I'm being educated. Dwayne and I are being educated. We're being educated.
Blown.
Yeah,
if I didn't have these earbuds in, my mind would be oozing out the side of my neck and down my hoodie right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is such cocaine activity right there. Oh my God, yeah, I didn't get a chance. Oh, that link, nah, dog. I didn't open. You didn't open the email?
Wow. Again, this could be a whole show. This could be a whole show of scandalous shit in tennis. This should. I mean, with those two ladies alone, Hingis and Maria, those two alone, wow, that's something else. But anyway, thank you, Janina. We appreciate it. Please check out her crew. Please check out her YouTube podcast, Real Tennis Fans Tennis Podcast on YouTube. You'd be glad you did, and please subscribe to the channel because it's good. It's awesome. You'll be thankful for it. All right, girlfriend. We'll see you around. All right. Take care.
Next time.
All right, peace. All right, welcome back. So we're going to get into some NFL now. We're going to talk about with all the more quarterback movement. Carson Wentz, was traded last week. Actually, maybe a day or two after our podcast ended.
Yeah.
Basically, like Carson Wentz, as we thought, would be traded to the Colts, but I didn't think the Colts would have to give up, but didn't give up anything. A third-round draft pick this year and a conditional second-round draft pick next year. That could turn to a first round, but that doesn't really fucking matter because they don't have to give up two picks.
Yeah.
One for this year, one for next year. So basically, as we kind of figured last week, man, Philadelphia got put over a barrel. And they stayed over a barrel. And they took it up the barrel, so to speak. And it seems like they're not learning the lesson again because as far as a handle quarterbacks, like because one would assume that Jalen Hurts will be the man now because after all, drafted in the second round for a reason.
Yeah.
But there's talk that they may draft a quarterback still with the ninth pick. I think they got
the 10th pick.
The 10th pick.
Yeah.
So they haven't learned a damn lesson. But anyway, Harry Roseman, you're on the clock. So basically, it's great for Indianapolis, even better for Carson Wentz, providing that he still has it between the ears.
Yeah.
Because a professional athlete, man, if you don't have it between the ears, no matter how much talent you have, it's a wrap. See Chuck Knobloch like with the New York Yankees, overthrowing first base every fucking time. And he was a Gold Glover, all-star.
Yeah.
It just left him. And Rick Ankiel of the St. Louis Cardinals, he's a promising future of a pitcher. Promising future. All of a sudden, he just threw it up the backstop. Just gone. Ended up moving to the outfield, becoming a damn good hitter, but he would have been a greater pitcher. He didn't lose between the ears. So it's mental is something else.
Yeah.
To
we legit just talked about it as it pertains to Serena Williams.
Yeah. I mean, it's mentally, man, it's one muscle you can't afford to fuck up.
No.
And when it goes, it goes. It's something else how powerful the mind is. But at any rate, so be that as it may, having said all that, Carson is in a better place. I think the Colts, they're a contender. If he keeps it together between the ears, he's back with Frank Reich, head coach in Indianapolis, was the former OC in Philly when he had his best years. And I think that some people want to mark that 1 year, that Super Bowl run when he got hurt as a fluke. I think that's who he really is. I think Philadelphia really fucked them up in the head with all the maneuverings and how they handled them, how they handle the quarterback situation where they draft Jalen Hurts in the second round. Really? So I think this would be a better situation for him. Philadelphia is Indianapolis is not as a media, like as far as the fans are as near as tough as it is in Philly.
No.
Again, God, Philly fans, they booed Santa Claus. That's how bad Philly fan is. But at any rate, I think this is going to work our way for Indianapolis. I think a lot of Philly fans are experiencing sour grapes on social media right now, but I think deep down they know that Carson Wentz is the better situation. So let's start with Indianapolis first, man. I expect Indianapolis they were good already. But this May, if Carson Wentz still has it between his ears, I think they're a threat. They are a threat with that talent at the quarterback position, and they need to improve their wide receiving core. But their offensive line is the best offensive line in football, one of the best. They have a young running game that's going to get better. They got a damn good tight end. Again, once they get the receiving core up to snuff, they're going to be a problem. They already got the defense.
Yeah, they already have the defense. Now, see, that's the thing with the Colts. I truly believe, even without Carson Wentz, they are still a team that can go 8-8, 9-7 easily, right? And as it pertains to the wide receiving core, if you think about it, I mean, T.Y. Hilton was a Pro Bowler before what's your boy's name? Phillip Rivers got there,
right?
And he had respectable seasons. Actually, it's pretty good seasons. With the exception of the last two. Now, if Carson Wentz can be that Carson Wentz, that was the good Carson Wentz when he was in Philadelphia, where he was averaging about 25, 26 touchdowns to 7 interceptions for those 3 seasons, then this will be a team that could easily win 10, 11 games. Easily, right? And receiving core will end up getting better because they'll have a better QB back there. And a QB that can throw the long ball. Like you said, with the running game that they have, which is extremely deep, which is led by Taylor. And then, of course, I've said before in the show many, many times, I love that defense. If all of that comes together in 2021, in the fall, that is, I can see them winning that division. I can.
I think they will.
Mean,
I know it's early, but I think they will.
Yeah, the Houston Texans, and they're in whatever they're in right now. Jacksonville is rebuilding right now as well. And then Tennessee, as great as they are, as good as they are, they're not necessarily great. As good as they are, they can be had.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what Carson Wentz they get. And I'm under the belief process once again with Frank Wright, and if he's capable of getting his mind right, then he'll be fine. But yeah, like you said, he's going to be in Indianapolis, where the media isn't as overbearing, as they are in Philadelphia. So, hopefully he can go ahead and turn it around there.
Well, you know what, man? I think they're going to probably roll out the red carpet for Carson Wentz because they're looking for the next Andrew Luck. They're still sore. I mean, Indianapolis is only an hour and a half up the road from here in Cincinnati. They are still mad at Andrew Luck for this. They call it quitting.
Yeah.
He retired because he got tired of getting beat up.
Yeah.
Every year. He didn't have the offensive line is in Indianapolis now. He's
wasn't what it was.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible with Andrew Luck. He had to run for his life.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So, I mean, he's looking at this stuff from his eyes like, God damn it, why didn't you guys give me this while I was here? I still be balling right now. But the point is that Wentz had a shitty offensive line in Philly with even shittier skill talent. And as they say, if you're quarterback, if you win, you get too much of the credit, and if you lose, you get too much of the blame. So it is what it is. So I think that, again, that's why I think Indianapolis is going to be a problem. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know it's early. It's not even the draft yet. Indianapolis is going to be a problem in the AFC next year. They're going to be a real problem. Because
I mean, think about it. Like you said, Carson Wentz was able to go for 27-7 in 2019 when they were bereft of any wide receiving talent. It was to the point where they had a former quarterback playing wide receiver for them, and they were still balling. And so that's what I'm saying. If he was capable of doing that in 2019, and he can somehow get back to that Carson Wentz at least in Indianapolis, where the receiving core was a whole lot better.
They're gonna be a problem.
Now, I don't know if they're Kansas City Chiefs level in year one, but if they can go ahead and continue to keep that team intact, continue to develop that team, they could potentially be a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the near future.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because even with Carson Wentz's contract, which I don't know the particulars in terms of how much Philadelphia is taking as far as their cap number, as far as Indianapolis, how much they're going to take under their cap. The Colts are still under the cap.
Yeah.
Even with Carson Wentz's contract, they're still under the cap.
Yeah.
And they still, again, they have a lot of young talent on defense. They're going to have to pay the piper later with Darius Leonard and company. But still, the point is, they're young and they're good. And I think they're at least Buffalo Bill level good. I really think
Most definitely.
They could have beaten Buffalo with Phillip Rivers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So again, I think Indianapolis is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
They're going to be a real problem. So good for Carson Wentz, even better for the Colts, because they didn't give up hardly anything, just 2 picks in different years.
If you talk to Lou, my co-host over at Sleazy, he'll tell you, hey, they kind of won because they got basically a third and a second rounder for a backup. And you don't necessarily get that combination for a backup. So he feels as though that they won, especially if Carson can come out and be a starter. So that conditional second rounder improves for them if he at least starts. And then if he meets other criteria, well, not criteria, but other milestones as well, while being with the Indianapolis Colts, I think that pick eventually becomes a first rounder. So
correct.
Yeah, and I feel as though that those could be easily matched milestones if he can, mentally get back to being right. And if that does become the case, Philadelphia wins because they end up getting draft picks to help them out with their rebuilding process, which they're going through. And Indianapolis wins because they end up getting the quarterback that they need in order to be competing with the Chiefs for NFL championship.
Yep, at least out of the AFC.
Because right now they're already competing with the likes, like you said, they battled with Buffalo.
They're with Buffalo right now.
Yeah, they're with Baltimore right now as well. So
Baltimore too.
Have that realm of teams. So, like, in my opinion, they're right above Cleveland.
Yeah.
The way that Pittsburgh is built right now, they're above Pittsburgh. So they're right there on that second tier.
Yep.
Right below the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
So it just depends upon what Carson Wentz does and how he looks and how fast they can really compete with them, like I said before, for the AFC Championship and to move on to the Super Bowl.
Do you really trust Philly, though, with their picks?
You know what? I don't know. Especially as it pertains.
I mean, technically they could win, as your boy Coach said. And you alluded to, I'm sorry, Lou said, technically on paper they were winning with a conditional first round pick, so it's a first round pick, but they're Philly. Do you trust Howie Roseman to do the right thing? When has Howie Roseman done the right thing in Philly? Philly fans will tell you that they probably have a fire Howie right now.
Hey. Right? So that'll be the interesting thing. Depending upon how Hurts pans out, some might say that they win with that. They just have a hard time drafting a wide receiver. They really do. And if they can somehow make it right, then it might be to his advantage. But we'll see. We'll see over the next couple of seasons what he necessarily does in order for this reclamation project that's going on up here in the city of brotherly love, and whether or not they can turn it around in this division, because it's one to be had. It really is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You know, Dallas isn't necessarily there yet, and depending upon what happens with Dak Prescott, ooh, please give him that tag again. I've been saying this.
They fucked that up. They should have given him that money.
Months.
They should have given his money 2 years ago.
They really should have. Like I said, I've seen this movie before, and that time that movie starred one Kirk Cousins, and we saw what happened with that situation and how it kind of hurt Washington as it pertains with the QB situation, and how they almost rebounded with Alex Smith, but of course he had that injury that was kind of stopped that rebound. But yeah, it's hard to rebound from that situation and not have to give up assets to a team which is once again bereft of defensive players. They need help on the defensive side of the ball a lot, and they also need O-line help too. Right. So like I said before, Dallas is to be had. The Giants, as good as that defense is, if they can get a little bit better, you know, they might be. Well, they were a division contender this year, even with 6 wins, but that was just because it's a weak year. And then, of course, Washington is another team that still is putting pieces together too. So it's all about who can get their pieces together faster and have them together longer to have control of over the NFC East. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see once again what Philly does.
And speaking of interesting, you mentioned them earlier, Pittsburgh. Now you've seen the reports that the Steelers now want Ben back.
Yeah.
They were lukewarm before, but my Steelers want them back now. So I don't know. Apparently, they've been having a conversation about the salary being drastically reduced, that salary cut number. So what I think is going to happen is that, you know, I'm reading on ESPN right now. They have a write-up on like how they're going to do this, how they think they're going to do this. There are 2 options they said is mentioned that they're going to reduce the cap hit from $41 million. That they can do. What I think is going to happen is they're going to do a restructure and a 4-year extension that voids after this season, which that method reduces 2021 base salary to $1.05 million and converts the remaining salary, because the remaining base salary and the $15 million roster bonus to a signing bonus. So that basically means that they'll save the Steelers a little over $14 million in cap money for the 2021 season. Even turns to the dead money for the 2022 season. So basically what happened is we'll still be on the hook for Roethlisberger, but it spreads the cap hit over multiple years. And so those would be voidable years. But I'm not that smart, so I don't know about how that's gonna cover that, like how that could go any further. Also, they could ask them to take a 70% pay cut. So basically, that means if Roethlisberger agrees to play for the veteran minimum, his cap hit would come in about a little bit over $23 million. But that's unlikely, because if he asks anybody, let alone a future Hall of Famer, take a 70% pay cut, that's unlikely, bro. That's unlikely as hell. So I think
I'll say this.
Yep, go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see if he takes it, because it depends upon what he wants to do this next season. Does he want to win, or does he want to get paid?
Right.
Because you can get paid and get beat up.
Right.
Or you can take that cut, get some more talent around you, because you already know that you need O-line help, and you need a running back there.
Yes, we do.
To help you out.
Offensive line in the running game, yes.
Yeah, and then they also have to rethink the Joe Hayden situation on whether or not, you know, they want to re-sign him or not.
Too.
And
we need to sign Bud Dupree. We need to sign Bud Dupree.
Yeah, so there's a lot that they have to do on both sides of the ball to keep talent around you in order to win. Yeah. So, I mean, what's the point of having this conversation about taking a pay cut and you're not necessarily taking a cut that will be team friendly to bring in talent to help you out and win a Super Bowl? That's my question.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, what he asked for will be telling on what he wants to do more. If he wants to get paid or if he wants to win. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what he asked for.
What are you betting
we
on?
can figure that out.
What are you betting on? What are you betting on? Paid, or if he wants to get paid, or does he really want to win? What are you betting on?
God, because I mean, look at him. He only has one Super Bowl under his belt. Two appearances, right?
Well, he has two.
Oh, that's
Super
right.
Bowls.
He's two. That's right, because he
three
won
appearances,
the one against Arizona and the one against
Seattle.
The Seattle. So he does have two.
Yeah.
So does he want a third? God, if you're asking me, man, I don't know. I really don't know, Scott.
It's tough. It's tough.
It really is tough.
It's tough.
And it's tougher for me being on the outside looking in, being that I don't necessarily, God, from Ben has kind of sheltered himself from those who aren't Steeler fans and those who don't necessarily pay attention to the Steelers based upon how he treats negotiations. Because I don't know how he does it, right? And he doesn't necessarily scream, get paid. Even though, of course, when the opportunity comes, he will take that money because who won't? Right. But I really don't know. It's hard for me to tell. My gut says that he's going to be willing to take that cut to help the team because they're there. They're already having this discussion. And that's the only thing that makes logical sense to me is that he'll be willing to take that cut. So it'll be interesting to see what he does exactly.
Well, if he really wants to win,
yeah.
Again, what you said is true. If he really wants to win, he should agree to a pay cut because we got 24 free agents. We're over the cap. And of those free agents, we have the main ones are Bud Dupree and Juju Smith-Schuster. Those are two main ones. I could take it and leave for Juju. But I would say this. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, the reason why they got their shines because the double teams that Juju faced. So if they really want to continue that, I know that Juju's probably going to command a lot of money, and Juju really wants to stay, and Ben really wants Juju to stay as well. So again, it depends if they. It's what about Roethlisberger? If word gets out that Roethlisberger is not bitching about how much he's going to get paid, he's made a lot of money. He has 2 Super Bowls under his belt. He's at the end of his career. He knows this. So if he wants to get paid, they can send him elsewhere to get paid, even though they'll be counted like $22 million in dead money. But to me, as soon as Bud Dupree went down against, I think Washington, was against Baltimore or Washington?
I want to say it was Baltimore.
Yeah. As soon as that happened, you could tell the defensive quality went down because everybody concentrated on stopping TJ Watt. And he could lose drives to pass. Remember, the Steelers still led the league in sacks. But they were really on the tear, when Bud Dupree was healthy. And remember when we got our asses kicked by Cleveland in the wild card game, we registered 0 sacks.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the Baker Mayfield. So we had it because the time we faced Mayfield the first time in Pittsburgh early in the season, we've been 31-7, some shit like that. We set this ass 4 or 5 times. So a pass rush matters. 2 things that really matter in football after the quarterback, your left tackle and the pass rusher. Those 2 positions matter outside of the quarterback position the most, I think, because you need your tackle to block your quarterback's blind side, and you need a pass rusher to get to the opposing quarterback. Well, see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think if we don't bring back Bud Dupree, instead of relying on young cats that we drafted last season, it's going to be a wash. Anyway, it's going to be a wrap anyway, because the way we're settled right now, and I don't want to make this to a Steelers podcast, but the way it's set up right now in our division, Baltimore's better than we are right now. Cleveland's no longer the little brother. They're going to get better. If Cincinnati gets this shit together and gets some offensive linemen to protect Joe Burrow, who's a stud, we got the fourth best quarterback in the division right now. So, at this stage of Big Ben's career.
Yeah.
So, again, it depends if Big Ben wants to do right by the team and not hold them in hostage and salary cap hostage, then great. We'll run about one more year, draft the quarterback in the second round. Because I don't like Mac Jones at all from Alabama. I do not like him at all. We'll get to that in another podcast. We're going to the draft, but they should draft another quarterback. Mason Rudolph ain't it? This is last year of his contract as well, and who knows what's going to happen with Dwayne Haskins. So again, this is a transitional year for Pittsburgh, and depending on how Roethlisberger handles it, we'll see how they go from there. So we're going to move to the NBA right quick. Then we're going to get to college football. But the Nets, man, how about those Brooklyn Nets? 8. They won 7 or 8 in a row. Seven in a row, I think. And
I want to say that it's 8 in a row.
Now 8 in a row. They swept the West Coast trip. They swept the Clippers. They beat down the Lakers, albeit without Anthony Davis, but who's counting? And they beat the Phoenix Suns, who I think is they're a damn good team. I called them. Remember, I said before the NBA season, watch out for the Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul.
Yeah. I didn't think they were going to be this good.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, going back to the beginning of the bubble, they're 28-10 right now.
And they were undefeated in the bubble too. That counts.
Yes, they're undefeated in the bubble.
Yeah.
And you look at this season where they're 20-10. Dude, they almost won 3/4 of their games since the beginning of the bubble. That is amazing for a team that was fighting for the 9th spot to make it into the playoffs last year. So this team has completely turned it around with the youth, and then of course with the experience of Chris Paul. Yeah, they have been amazing. And what have they won? They've won like 6 in a row too themselves, right?
They're hot. They're playing Charlotte right now, which Charlotte's better than I thought too. But at any rate, so basically a lot of people say, the Nets are, if they were to rate the NBA right now, the Nets would be the best team. I think that's bullshit. I think that Utah doesn't get enough love. No. I think because Utah, what's the stats here? They're 3rd in defense and 4th in offense. Wow. 4th in offensive points scored, 3rd in defensive points allowed. That's a damn good team. Yeah. That's a damn good team. And they're right behind Milwaukee for rebounding. So look, they're playing the Lakers right now, but I mean, I think people are selling them short. I think a lot of people are selling Utah short. Yeah, they're playing Utah short, and I think that Utah is going to be a real big problem.
Now I'll say this, right? I'm enjoying what Utah is doing right now. Yeah, I am. The reason why I am selling them short is because of June. Yeah. What will they do when it comes time for the NBA playoffs? Yeah. And they have to go ahead and they have to face the likes of a Denver, of LA Clippers team who looks to be improved right now than they were last year. Yes, and of course the LA Lakers, last year's champions. What are they going to look like then? Yeah. If they can somehow be regular season Utah in the playoffs, then hey, I can't look down on them. But we don't know yet. And we don't have any history of them doing that yet either. Right. Which is why I'm like, okay, this looks nice. And we've seen the likes of the Milwaukee Bucks do the exact same thing. This looks nice.
It's cute.
What you going to do in the playoffs, dude? So that's when that's where the question really gets answered. And a lot of people and that's probably why a lot of people are trepidatious about being highly excited about the Utah Jazz.
That's a big word, by the way. Trepidatious. Ding. That's our big word for the night. That's our clown hour moment. That's our big word for the night.
I'll say this, dude. Ever since I started writing and doing it on a regular basis, I surprise myself on what words I spit out my mouth. I really do. I'm like,
That's Tourette syndrome. Triple
I said
digits.
what?
But seriously, we both make good points. I think as far as the Eastern Conference goes, it's so wide open. But I think the Nets are the best in the East right now. But it's them and Philly and everybody else right now, in my opinion. And even though I like Charlotte a lot, they're surprising. My New York Knicks are surprising, and the Bulls are surprising. With that Levine kid. I mean, he's been great. But I think it's Utah's world right now. But again, it goes down to a series. Playoffs are different because a team has seven possible opportunities to figure out a way to beat you. It's just you and that team. And so that's what makes plus even harder, and especially a 7-game series harder, because they're zeroing on your ass to figure out how to beat you. They can dissect you, break you down, make adjustments. That's why Milwaukee's been failing the last few playoffs. That's why Utah's come up short, and that's why people are not high on Utah right now, because, okay, this is fine right now in the regular season, but how does it translate when the Clippers face you for 7 games? When Denver faces you for 7 games, when the Lakers face you for 7 games. So it's going to be very, very, or the Phoenix Suns, for that matter, face you for 7 games. So that'll be a tough matchup. So it's going to be fun. The NBA is fantastic. It's fun this year, and especially with the play-in game. So it's going to be pretty cool. We mentioned it earlier. We teased a little bit when we talked off camera. College football. FCS levels back in full swing in the spring. One big story, I know, right? One big story is Jackson State, Deion Sanders. Of course, Jackson State beat Edward Walters College, a small NAIA, HBCU as well.
Yeah, Edward Waters, yes.
Edward Waters, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But what led up to the game, what tainted, in my opinion, was when Deion made news when he said that someone stole some shit out of his locker room or some office or something like that.
Out of his office, yes.
Now, look, I understand being mad if someone takes your shit, right? And it was recovered, by the way. But to me, it's time and place because it's the stigma of HBCU, right? Because they figured, it's a black school, like look at them stealing Deion's shit, and that's what. I don't think Deion meant for that to happen. I hope he didn't mean for that to happen. But you know how it is. If this is at Tennessee or Florida State where he came from, I don't think it would be much ado about nothing.
God, no.
But because it's Jackson State, it's HBCU, and it had to pick up much more traction, thankfully, but it picked up enough. So
it picked up too much, in my opinion.
Okay. I know you got time. I know you got thoughts, so I'll let you have it.
Yeah. So, most of us in HBCU circles, we kind of joke around that whenever you make Sports Center as an HBCU program, in most cases, it's bad news.
Right. Now,
it's been the opposite over the past year because, of course, there have been signings of high-profile players coming to HBCUs. See McCord Maker, see the Sanders brothers and all the guys that are transferred over to Jackson Southern, Jackson State, along with the hiring of one Deion Sanders. And then there have been some high-profile players to go to other programs as well. The young ladies, the twin sisters that transferred to go over to Howard, just to name a few, right? And to play volleyball there. But yeah, this was another one of those situations where after watching the game and not necessarily watching the press conference, that was the only thing that took up the headlines from all of the major media outlets that I saw. And when I say major ones, it was on ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Yahoo, 24/7 Sports, all of those, they all said the same thing. Deion talked about being robbed at the game, and it overlooked the fact of the team winning 53-0 against a program that, in my opinion, they probably could have beaten bigger. But I digress. I don't want to sit here and be critical of the team because they succeeded. They won. Right. Hopefully they learn from their mistakes. Yes, and they get better as the season goes on because, once again, this is a new head coach and it's a new team for a lot of these players as well. So I don't want to be too critical about them. They'll hopefully get whatever they need to get together over the next couple of games together so they can go ahead and do what they need to do. But I'm going to go ahead and focus on the whole robbery thing. Now, I understand his anger.
Yeah.
I understand why he was upset because he was violated, right?
Yeah.
Or he felt as though he was violated. And for him to come out and open up with that in the presser was hurtful. And I'm going to need Prime to understand. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and address him correctly.
Go ahead.
I'm going to need Coach Sanders to understand that, unfortunately, HBCUs are looked upon and they're thought of a lot differently than other programs.
Right.
And all it takes is for the smallest thing to happen at an HBCU for people to say, see, that's why I don't want to send my child there. That's why this program can't succeed, because stuff like this happens. And it doesn't even have to be the biggest thing. When I say programs make ESPN, okay, Howard has made, for an example, over the past 9 years, they've made ESPN for 3 reasons: the McCord Maker signing, the Ron Prince, Kalen Newton situation, and then there was a situation where players were taking book vouchers and selling them and using them for their own personal purposes. So, of course, 2 of those 3 were bad situations.
Right.
And I hate to hear about a book voucher situation on ESPN. Who does this? They talk about, kids from Power 5 conferences selling off items to make money, but that becomes such a short-lived thing. But you got to hear about book vouchers, and they're like, see, this is why HBCUs don't succeed. And you're looking at a situation now where high-profile kids and upper echelon and high-talented kids are starting to look at HBCUs as viable options.
Right.
But if a parent who, once again, is trepidatious about sending their child to an HBCU will look at this and say, see, if they're doing that to the coach, what will they do to my child?
Right.
I don't know if I want to have my child in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's just something you just cannot do, because it's already difficult enough to change the opinions of people who already have negative opinions on HBCUs as is. And this just adds on to this. Now, I know Coach Sanders has heard it from all angles, because I know that after his reaction on Monday, once Stephen A. Smith has said something to him personally, Jalen Rose has said something very similar, where he talked about the school that he started in Detroit, where his car was broken into, and he didn't report it because he didn't want the negative press to go out about that section of Detroit that he's looking to assist. Yeah. And my God, I wanted to be said right now, HBCUs are not necessarily a reclamation project. Right. As much as we would like to have high talent players come to HBCUs, trust me, these Black kids need to come to HBCUs so that they can be respected and loved upon the way that they should, and nurtured the way that they should be. Not because you can help them win games. Kids. Yeah. Not because they can help you win games. Because trust me, talent is already here at HBCUs. Yeah. Trust me, there's talented head coaches already at HBCUs. We don't necessarily need them. We would love to have them, yes. But we don't need you. We would love to have you here so that you can be loved on and respected the way that you should be. Yeah. Because we already know that you have problems already at these PWIs. I'm not saying, hey, don't go. Yeah. But what I'm saying is this. Go check out an HBCU campus and see how they treat you. And more than likely, they'll treat you like you're at home. And sometimes it's going to be tough love. And I don't want an incident like this to be negative towards anyone who's looking to come, be it another athlete or another coach, to do this at an HBCU. Now, I've heard Coach Sanders's response to everything and how he's dealing with it, and he felt the way that he felt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping that he's seeing this as a learning process, because this is the second time this has happened to him since he's been hired. He had his car broken into when they stole a boombox a couple of months ago, and now this. So I understand the aggravation. I understand the anger, but we have to do whatever we can to help protect the image of these institutions. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying don't handle the situation, because that's the other thing. The situation was handled. The assistant caught the guy who was stealing the stuff from the office and placed the items elsewhere. Unfortunately, due to poor communication, he did not relay that message to Coach Sanders, mm-hmm. who expressed his anger during the press conference. And we just can't have those moments at HBCUs, dude. So I'm like I said before, I'm hoping that Coach Sanders sees this and uses this as a learning lesson on how to proceed, because I know that he's an open guy. He likes to share everything that happens in that program.
He's an open book. He's transparent. I'll give him that.
And I'm at times it could be a benefit, and at times it could be a detriment. This is one of those times where it's a detriment, dog. And I really hope that he understands now how this could be perceived as a way to hurt HBCUs, even when it's not its intentions. You always got to be aware of what you're saying, because people in a lot of instances will attempt to use it against you, even when all you're trying to do is rectify a situation.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, brother. Well said. And which makes even the Maker kid in Howard, they mm-hmm. had to shut down the whole basketball season because of COVID.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's not healthy, he hadn't been truly healthy, even though that's not really Howard's fault.
No.
What they're gonna do? They're gonna blame Howard for possibly ruining a potential lottery picks trajectory.
Yo, that's exactly what an article was written. They were like, there were a lot of people who believed that McCord made the wrong decision in going to Howard. Dude, an injury like that can happen anywhere. Playing bad like that, the way that Howard looked, and yes, they did have a loss to a Division II program, can happen to anyone in these circumstances.
Correct. It's an injury. It's an injury.
And it's playing bad for a program who is in year 2 of their head coach, where I think somewhere between 10 to 12 players on that roster are brand new and mm-hmm. have never played with one another. They barely had a lot of time to practice with one another because of COVID. They barely worked out with one another because of COVID. And that's what you're going to get earlier. As a matter of fact, a lot of HBCUs looked bad early in their seasons. It took some time for them to get together and learn to play with one another. So to be judgmental of McCord's decision after 4 games is asinine to me. Mm-hmm. It just is. Allow that dude to make the decision for where he wants to go, because it's not just about athletics. Yes, if he wanted to win, and there were people saying that, if he wanted to win and get the HBCU experience, he probably should have gone to Texas Southern or gone to North Carolina Central, where, you know what, you're right, because they're experienced programs with experienced head coaches that have done it before and they've won. That's not what he wanted. He wanted to go to Howard, and he's a student athlete. And we always have to take into consideration that first word first. And right. A lot of times we don't. And that first word is student. Let that dude be a student first, and the athletics will come. Don't be judgmental of these kids making these decisions that they feel as though will better them for being a student than anything else. Let them have their student experience, and don't rob them of that because of how you feel. Let them have this thing, please.
Well said.
My God.
Well said. We'll get you out on this, man. We'll wrap it up with this, with Black History Moments in Sports. Being that it's the last full week of Black History Month, February, We're going to close this month out in style. I know we're coming up at the end of our podcast. We had so much fun tonight. Epic podcast tonight. But basically, that's what I'm going to say the rules, repeat the rules again. We're going, like, we're not going to just cover, just harp on those we know about, the Jackie Robinsons, off the ashes. We had tennis on earlier. You know, and you know, Hank Aaron, and like, we all know who those guys are. Just we don't know who those cats are.
Yes.
But many people do not know about the little known Black history facts out there, particularly in sports, that people don't know. So that's why I'm using this segment to educate folks on. So without further ado, I have 3. I know we normally do 2. I have 3 because what I think is special, because something that's special that happened earlier today. Well, first of all, we talked tennis earlier. So my first Black history moment in sports comes from tennis. Before the Williams sisters, before Zena Garrison, there was Althea Gibson. Now, who's Althea Gibson, you might ask? She played through the 1950s, and she has 5 titles under her belt. Won the French Open once, won Wimbledon twice, and won the US Open twice. She didn't have a long career. She only played, I think, she only played in the 50s and early 60s. But the fact is that when she played, she won, and she won a lot. And there's another special thing about her. Well, 2 special things. She went to FAMU. She's a FAMU graduate, Florida A&M, on the full athletic scholarship. And one more thing, she pledged AKA, Alpha Kappa Alpha, as well. So, which is special because I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So, again, one of the things I think is cool is that, you know, again, before it's the Williams sisters, before Zena Garrison, there was one out there, Gibson, and I thought it was a cool thing to share. And I wish I had the wherewithal to point that out to Janina earlier.
Janina,
She would have really appreciated it, but we ran out of time in this segment. But that's my first one. My second one comes in the form of track and field. Now, I mentioned Jesse Owens earlier. Is that many people know about him, obviously, but what most people do not know was in college, he wasn't the only fastest dude in the world. There were 2 other guys who were fast, who were just as fast. Eulace Peacock, that's spelled Eulace, Peacock, and Ralph Metcalfe. They were, with Jesse Owens, they were the 3 fastest men in the world in the 1930s. And there's an article on SI.com about those 2. And it's called Faster Than the Fastest. That's the name of the article. And it goes in depth of those 2 brothers as it relates to Jesse Owens. So again, in the 1930s, we all knew about, people know about Jesse Owens being the fastest dude in the world, but he was not the only one. Again, Eulace Peacock and Ralph Metcalfe, 2 of the 3 fastest men in the world in the 1930s. And one last thing, one Black history moment is close to my heart, is one John Burlew. Now, who's John Burlew, you might ask? Well, first of all, the personal connection is he's my father-in-law. He passed a few years ago when my son was 2 years old. So he's been gone from us for 9 years. We still miss him every day, but there's a couple of cool things about him. He was the first Black man to be president of the Cincinnati Bar Association.
Wow.
The first Black man, I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think in the early 1980s, he was the first one. And there's just a sports component to this, believe it or not. Aside from him being an avid sports fan, he was actually a college football player who went to Hanover College on a full athletic scholarship. And he was a class of 1970. And he played offensive lineman. And he also got a letter the trail for the Dallas Cowboys upon his graduation. So he obviously pursued a law degree, but the fact of the matter is that he had a chance to make it to the NFL was pretty cool, I thought. So again, my 3 Black History moments in sports are Althea Gibson, Eulace Peacock, Ralph Metcalfe in track and field, and John Burlew, the first Black president of the Cincinnati Bar Association and former college football player who had a chance to play in the NFL. I think your screen is frozen with shock. I think we might have lost Dwayne. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep talking until his. Oh, he's back now. Hey, sorry about that.
Okay,
yes,
yeah. So
yes.
when I got knocked out and you to me everything, my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got a little concerned there when you kind of froze up and then just kind of knocked me off
crazy.
There for a
Technology
moment.
is crazy.
Yes, but that's all right though. Let me go ahead, and I too have 3. So we're kind of capping Black History Month off heavy-handed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me go through these as quickly as possible. First and foremost, it hit me earlier today. I had to touch on this one. Shout out to my old PE teacher in elementary school, one Mr. Lewis at the great Bunker Hill Elementary School. The reason why I bring him up is because without this man, I never would have been introduced to the first gentleman that I'm going to talk about, one Paul Robeson. Now, for those who are familiar with Paul Robeson, he is a well-known bass baritone opera-style singer, an actor, and philanthropist during the Harlem Renaissance era. And unfortunately, he made the decision to exile himself to Russia because there were a lot of people who did not like his communist views, even though he wasn't necessarily communist.
Correct.
But to not have to deal with the persecution that he was dealing with here, especially being a Black man that spoke out about things that were happening here in the country, he decided to move to Russia. But before doing so, while he was an undergrad at Rutgers University, he played on the football team there. So he was an All-American there while he was at Rutgers. He also played 2 years professional football before moving on to the performing arts. So shout out Mr. Lewis and my man Paul Robeson. But I want to go ahead and talk about another favorite person of mine that I learned about during my childhood that became even more instrumental to me as I got older, and that will be one James J. Evans Jr. I'm looking at your face, right?
Not Good Times, not JJ from Good Times.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the artist behind J.J. Evans.
Okay.
And that will be the great Ernie Barnes.
Okay.
For those that are not familiar, I mean, I guess the whole reason why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Barnes, an alum of North Carolina Central, where he played offensive guard there. Ended up being drafted in the 1960 NFL draft by the Baltimore Colts in the 10th round. Oddly enough, he was drafted by the Washington football team a couple of rounds earlier, but when they found out that he was a Negro, they released his rights. Yeah, grimy, right?
George Preston's, I tell you.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So he was drafted by the Baltimore Colts later on in that draft, where he went on to have a 5-year NFL career, playing with the New York Titans that are now known as the New York Jets.
Correct.
And my God, he was extremely critical of the Jets during that time frame. So you could only imagine if the Jets are considered a shit show now, what kind of a shit show they were back then, right?
Right.
This was in the early 60s. So he played for the Titans, the Chargers, and the Broncos. And after leaving the NFL, he ended up becoming, actually, he was already an artist. He actually went to Central to study art.
Mm-hmm.
He got better in his artwork. And oddly enough, his first piece of art that he sold was to Celtics great and fellow North Carolina Central alum, Sam Jones. He sold that piece for $90. Oddly enough, they talked about him sketching during team meetings. And they said one of those sketches during the meeting, which he was reprimanded for, he was actually fined $100 because of that drawing. That sketch actually sold for $1,000. So go figure, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, like I said, Barnes is well known for his artwork. He was commissioned by the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee back in '84 to do the artwork for the entire Olympics that year that was held in Los Angeles. So if you see any of the artwork from the '84 Olympics, that was all Ernie Barnes.
Nice.
Also, he was commissioned to do work for the LA Lakers, the Carolina Panthers, who was of course the owner then, Jerry Richardson, was the one that commissioned him to do the artwork, was also a teammate of his in Baltimore.
Wow.
He was also commissioned to do artwork for the NBA and for the owners of the New Orleans Saints, the Oakland Raiders, and the Boston Patriots. But the thing that we all know him for, of course, is his work that was done, well, the majority of the work that was done on the show Good Times. And of course, in 1971, Barnes created the famous painting, The Sugar Shack, which is the one that we all see at the end of Good Times, and also was the cover of Marvin Gaye's album in 1976, I Want You.
Yes.
So that's my man, Ernie Barnes. Ernie Barnes is most definitely one of my favorite artists of all time. It just sucks that he went to North Carolina Central. But I digress,
we all make mistakes.
Right?
We all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes.
We're entitled to one mulligan in our lives. So.
Oh yeah, we all entitled, and that's all he got is one.
There you
all
go.
He got is one, right? So yeah. So that's Ernie Barnes. That's Paul Robeson, and then I go ahead and I thought I'd start talking about one of my favorite niche sports or sports entertainment, if you will, and that will be professional wrestling. I had to bring out the wrestling belt for that. I want to talk about a couple of HBCU alums that played collegiately at HBCUs that went on to move on into professional wrestling. One of the names that a lot of people probably know from pro wrestling is the one great Ernie Ladd, the Big Cat, right?
Yes.
He played 4 years at Grambling, ended up having a 9-year career where he played defensive tackle, played for the Chargers, the Oilers, and the Chiefs, was a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro, and then, you know, he ended up moving on from the NFL to a more lucrative career in professional wrestling. Imagine that, right? Where pro wrestling could be looked at as being more lucrative than professional football, right? He ended up wrestling for about maybe 20 years, and he was inducted into the WCW Hall of Fame in 1994 and the WWE Hall of Fame in 1995, being at that time the first and only for a very long time to be inducted into both Hall of Fames at the same time. Now, there have been some people to do it subsequently since then, but he was the first to do it, and he was the only to do it for a very long time. So next on that list, my man Junkyard Dog.
Yes.
My man JYD.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, JYD. He played at Fayetteville State, where he was an honorable mention 2-time All-American. And of course, JYD, known for his matches in the WWE. He became a WWE Hall of Famer back in 2004. Also, another HBCU alum, a little known wrestler for those who were familiar with wrestling in the 60s and 70s, Luther Lindsay, who played tackle and guard over at Norfolk State. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2017. And also Freight Train Rufus Jones, who played O-line at South Carolina. Yes, who played offensive line at South Carolina State and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018. And another guy, I don't know if you're necessarily familiar with him. He spent the majority of his time in ECW. His name is New Jack. He actually went to Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta. I don't know if he necessarily played a sport there, but he is an HBCU alum. And if you've never seen New Jack before, my God, you talk about extreme in terms of extreme wrestling. That is New Jack. If you haven't seen his story, there's a documentary. It's actually on YouTube as well, but it premiered on God, I forget the name of the network, but the name of the show is called Beyond the Ring. Well, Dark Side of the Ring. That's the name of the show.
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Ring. And look for the New Jack episode. It goes into his history and talks about his career. Bruh, when you talk about insane stuff in terms of pro wrestling,
yeah,
that's New Jack, yo.
Nice. Well, I gotta look that up. I definitely gotta look that up. Appreciate that. Well, we normally have a random shit segment, but we've ran so long with this podcast and that we had so much fun with Janina Reed and all this.
My only random shit that I got is that, hey, it's HBCU football time, baby. And there's 3 games coming on TV this week. Real quick, game coming on Friday night. SWAC action. If memory serves me correctly, it's Alcorn State and
she had her fingers together.
Yes, so I'm trying to remember it. But not Alcorn, I'm sorry. It's Alabama State. They play Friday night on ESPN3. Saturday, it's going to be Jackson State and Mississippi Valley State on ESPN3. That's gonna be cool. And then on Sunday, it's going to be also Howard and Delaware State. Even though the MEAC has decided not to play football as a conference, Howard, Delaware State, South Carolina State will be playing a 4 or 5 game schedule. And then also on Sunday, Tennessee State will be playing against Austin Peay, and that will be on ESPN Plus. So get your ESPN HBCU football fix starting this Friday. My God, HBCU football is back. I'm losing my mind, and women are going to be upset with me because I ain't going to have no time for them this weekend.
There you go. Get an ESPN Plus subscription, y'all. That's how you catch our games. That's how you catch the game. So
no doubt.
Anyway, it's been a blast, man. It's a wrap. Please check out the Wayne Nash and A&T merch. We're in the house. Please
Big win for A&T over Central tonight.
There you go. Let's do this.
In Durham.
The Yard / HCU Sports, the website, all things HCU Sports. HeroSports.com, Sleazy Radio, Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Check this brother out. He's great. He's awesome. You enjoy it. As well as me, please subscribe to the channel. You be glad you did. Get the merch, KevinPress.com.
Get the merch.
Search for the Clown Time Sports. Link will be in the description. You'll be glad you did. And please, y'all, stay your ass indoors. If you don't have your vaccine, wear a mask. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Peace out. See you next time.